I'd been told that motherhood was an exhilarating, terrifying, life-altering, sleep-depriving, anxiety-filled, and absolutely wonderful roller coaster, and I wanted on. Unfortunately for me, the line to get on this particular ride seemed to be never-ending. In fact, this particular thrill seeker seemed to be letting many other women have 2 or 3 turns and rejecting me completely. I was frustrated, sad, and confused, but more than anything, I was determined to secure my spot on this elusive coaster. My husband Jeff and I were married in 2004, and I had grand dreams of becoming a mother. We started trying to get pregnant in April of 2005, and month after month, I would get my period, get pissed, go through a few days of depression, and then miraculously, I would become hopeful again that maybe, just maybe, this would be my month. That was my life for about 18 months, and it was never my month. In January in 2007, we consulted a fertility specialist to get some answers. Apparently those would elude me as well. After many appointments, tests, procedures, fertility drugs, inseminations, and an exploratory surgery, we were given a diagnosis of unexplained infertility. Another 12 months had gone by, and it was still never my turn for a spin. Now it's January 2008, and nothing we were doing was working. I was going a bit crazy, and I was no closer to hitching a ride on the mommy tilt-a-whirl. Finally, we were given the option of going through in vitro. Taking into consideration every cost that went along with this choice, additional doctor appointments, self-injections, mood swings, potential complications, and the monetary outlay, there was never a question in my mind that the hefty ticket price would be well worth it. We went ahead with in vitro, and on June 20th, 2008, we transferred 3 perfect embryos into my uterus, and I was certain this was going to work. This final option was going to make me a mother. This was going to get me on the roller coaster that had been eluding me for so long. This was going to be my month. Remember those potential complications I mentioned just a second ago? Well, it turns out for me, they were a reality. 9 days after those perfect embryos were transferred, I was admitted to the hospital with a nasty infection from a ruptured cyst on my right ovary from the egg retrieval process. The doctor said I was very close to septic shock and would have died, that it was the worst infection he had seen in his 26 years as a fertility specialist. I had to have emergency laparoscopic surgery. I was in the hospital for 4 days on round-the-clock antibiotics, and for the first time, I was absolutely convinced there was no chance I was pregnant. I finally got on a ride, but it wasn't exactly what I bought the ticket for. On the day they discharged me, they took blood to check my white blood cell count and to run a pregnancy test. Go ahead. At this point, I just wanted to go home and get on with my life. Screw the roller coaster. I was done. My body, heart, and soul had been through enough over the last 3 years, and now I needed to come to terms with what life would be, and start to heal. The doctor came in around noon and proceeded to tell me that my blood count looked really good and I would be released in a couple of hours. He continued with, we ran a pregnancy test, and anything under 5 is considered negative, and anything over 5 is considered positive. Yours was 197. I just looked at him and said, that's nice, can I go home now? He said, Stacey, that means you're pregnant. I immediately just started crying and laughing at the same time. My husband hugged me and was crying and telling me how happy he was. Neither of us could believe it. Finally, July of 2008 was my month to step onto the mommy coaster. I had an appointment 2 weeks later for my first ultrasound, and Jeff and I were in the room waiting for the technician, and we were both very nervous, although later I would learn for completely opposite reasons. The tech came in and began the scan and was chit-chatting with us. She asked, do you have any other children at home? And we answered that this was our first pregnancy. She nodded and kept scanning. At that very moment, I told myself, she doesn't see anything. The baby is gone. It's over. She interrupted my mental disintegration with the following words. Well, are you guys ready for some news? I don't see 1 baby, and I don't see 2 babies. I see 3 babies and 3 heartbeats. Jeff and I just looked at each other with me busting out laughing and him turning every shade of color under the rainbow. It turns out that's why he was nervous. I wanted on the ride, and I ended up hitting the trifecta. 2 weeks after that, all the babies showed up on my ultrasound again, and the doctor indicated that my pregnancy would more than likely continue in triplicate. Zeke, Zelda, and Zorro, my mother's name for them while I was pregnant, were still on board, and this thrill ride had finally begun. The pregnancy itself was pretty uneventful, but ended a bit early and rather abruptly. The morning of December 19th, 2008, after carrying the triplets for only 28 weeks, with 6 of those weeks being on bed rest at the hospital, they were born via emergency C-section after Zeke's water broke. Much to everyone's surprise, they came out crying, breathing on their own, and all were a good size for being so premature. Our 3 tiny miracles were here. In total, they spent 6 weeks in the neonatal intensive care unit and came home together on February 3rd, 2009. The roller coaster ride had stopped. I did it. I was a mom of triplets. At that moment, I knew the real ride was just starting. I had just exited the Gemini, and I was about to board the Millennium Force, Raptor, and Corkscrew, all rolled into one. Jacob Joseph, Benjamin Allen, and Sarah Elaine are now almost 5.5 years old. They are healthy, smart, intuitive, creative, funny, polite, and fabulous. And just as I had heard, motherhood is an exhilarating, terrifying, life-altering, sleep-depriving, anxiety-filled, and absolutely wonderful ride, and I wouldn't change a thing.